Hello and welcome to another ink review. Today I am reviewing another ink by Robert Oster. We all know how I feel about Robert's inks, and today we are looking at Hot Pink. A really interesting ink this time. I spoke to Robert a while back and was talking about some of his pinks, and we sort of said this was probably the most vibrant, so I thought I'd give it a review. This is it on some cardstock. See some nice shading there. Let's put it through its paces. So the ink comes in this usual Robert Oster bottle. It's a 50ml, environmentally friendly plastic bottle, made in Australia, and it's a really sort of good bottle, good for filling low. Although getting a depending on how low you are filling, sort of activating converters and things can be a little bit tricky, but that's okay. My only issue with these bottles is that they do tip over a little bit. That's okay, once again, as long as you're careful with it. Let's look at it on some paper now. So I have it here on Tomo River paper. This is in a Bond Travel Gear notebook, not made anymore, but a really good quality Tomo River notebook. I have it in this pen at the moment, which is the Moonman T1, which is a medium nib with a nice sort of very consistent, slightly wet flow. You can see here on this paper, you get lots of nice dark shading. When I think of a hot pink, I think of something a little bit more vibrant personally. This is lots of, sort of nice depth of color. Let's talk about these 5 points. Firstly, it's vibrant. It really pops in those pink, particularly in the lighter shading, which actually makes this a really interesting ink because you get some of those darker notes really coming through, and then you just get like a hit of sort of a more sort of vibrant pink. I love the magenta undertone to this ink. It's got a nice, that depth in there, that slightly purpley magenta is really quite nice. Good performance. As you'll see, it performs relatively well on a range of papers. It cleans well, all those sorts of things that we know from Robert Oster. This is excellent for art. I comment on this a little bit later, but like the ink moves around quite nicely. So if you use ink for artwork, it's it's a pretty good option for a pink. Also, it's Australian, which in my book is a plus, being from Australia. It's an Australian-made ink. Robert is basically a one-man company who makes a huge range of inks, sold internationally on quite a large scale, and he does an amazing job. He's socially conscious. He sort of supports charities, all that sort of stuff. He's one of the good guys in this industry for sure. Australian-made, produced, all that sort of stuff. Get behind it. Let's talk about the performance. Okay, so it's got nice flow. It's not a super, super wet ink. It's just nicely wet. It's not super lubricated on the page, but it's got nice flow. Great shading. As you can see, sort of a lot of those sort of lighter pink, pops coming through are really nice. As I said, I've used this for ink. It moves well, handles water nicely. And of course, like Robert Oster inks, it's safe. So it's not, it's safe in your pens, it cleans well, all of that sort of stuff. Extras, it's got good shade. There's no shimmer, not a whole lot of sheen, nothing like that. It's just a good solid ink. Let's look at it on some other paper and then we'll go into the other details. So here it is on Rhodia. You can see it's nice flow, not super wet, good shading, great depth of color, all that stuff. You can see there that sort of it's got nice depth to the shading. There's no feathering, as you would expect on this paper, and nothing comes through. So it's pretty decent performance. Actually, if you look at the reverse of this Tomo River page, there's no, there's nothing coming through there either. And of course, it looks great on this paper. A couple of more affordable paper options. Just your standard copy paper now, to see how it performs there. You can see there's a little bit of feathering, but that's to be expected. This is not fountain pen friendly paper, and the color is a lot more muted. It does come through a little bit, which is also to be expected there. So it not fountain pen friendly paper, but it does work its way through. And then on the student notepad, we actually get a nice shade of the pink there. Flat color, of course, there's no shading. and it does really come through there. But, you know, this is very cheap, you know, sort of student note paper. So I still don't think that's a terrible performance. Like, in comparison to a couple of other inks there, it performs fairly well. So looking at the water resistance, it does move around a lot. There's a tiny bit sort of left behind. You could still certainly make it out, but it takes up a lot of the ink, and you can see that there in the chromatography. There's a little bit of a sort of grey pink left behind, but we get moved through beautiful light pinks, and that sort of, there's that hot pink magenta sort of colour, and then some darker sort of shades at the top. A couple of comparisons that I've put it alongside here. Firstly, I wanted to put it alongside something that I consider to be, you know, like quite a pink, and that is a Hope Pink from Diamine. That's vibrant, that's light, that's fluoro neon-y sort of pink, as opposed to the Hot Pink by Oster, which is a lot of the darker shade. It's, as I put it here, close to Iroshizuku Yamabudo, which for the magenta tones there, you know, you can see it sort of in comparison, if you will. Okay, let's talk details. Price. Now, Robert Oster, as I said, is in the standard 50ml bottle. There are samples available from a number of retailers as well, but if you're buying the full bottle, this is what you can expect. In the US, it's $17 to $19, depending on where you get it. In the UK, it's £15, so not super cheap in the UK. And in Australia, it's $20 to $22, which for a 50ml bottle is not bad. I'll say it's not bad value. Like, I think it's good value because you're also not getting, it's still a boutique sort of company. There's a huge range of inks, but it's, you know, one guy, you know, it's basically making stuff and dealing with, you know, distributors and retailers all over the world. So I don't think that pricing is too bad, really. It's more expensive than things like Diamine, but it's also not produced on the same scale. So for score, I've given it 3.5 out of 5. It's not your average pink. That depth in it makes it interesting. The performance is pretty good. Water resistance is okay. And as I said, being used for art, I think this is a really top quality ink in that respect. So that was Robert Oster Hot Pink. I hope you found that video interesting and useful. If you did, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Hit the notifications button if you want to stay up to date with the videos that I produce. Please feel free to get in touch using any of the platforms listed below. You can find me on Instagram or Twitter at @the_offstage_me, or you can contact me on any of my videos here or drop me an email, which is listed down below. If you've got products you think I should be looking at, or if there's a way you'd like to support the channel by sponsoring a review or providing an item for review, I would love to hear from you. In the meantime, enjoy your ink, enjoy writing, and I'll talk to you soon.